My name is Inyan Eagle Elk. I'm an enrolled member of the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska. I graduated from Le Cordon Bleu Cooking Hospitality Institute of Chicago in 2010, and I've been cooking professionally ever since. And now we focus on traditional foods and preservation of those traditional foods and the rehydration of those traditional foods. Today we're going to be making Symtriadic stew, also known as Three Sisters stew. The ingredients you're going to need are corn, squash, and beans. Any varieties of the beans will work, any varieties of the squash, and any variety of the corn will work. But today we're going to be using readily available products that you could get at any of the stores in any given city, any town. And also the canned ingredients that we have are canned hominy and canned yellow corn, kernel corn, and black beans and pinto beans. And all were drained and rinsed. And we're also going to use some fresh oregano, kosher salt, and grapeseed oil. There's the Haudenosaunee people out east. They had a vision and a dream to grow these items, these foods together, the corn, the beans, and the squash. And the corn, it has the real thick stalk, and it grows up and it has petals here and there, and that's what the green beans use, or the beans, the legumes. They grow up and they do that, and then the squash kind of helps provide shade for all that stuff on the bottom there, you know. So the three sisters, they help each other grow. So everything about the three sisters trio, you know, they all help each other in different ways. So that's why they call it three sisters, you know, because they all help each other all the time. They're like family, you know. But they're all different. They have their special qualities. Just how three sisters would be. The tools that you're gonna need for all this: you're gonna need a blender, and then you're gonna need a saute pan for cooking this on the stovetop, or you can also roast it too. So then some of the things that we're going to need today, we're going to use a peeler. This is the kind of peeler that I would recommend. These are my favorite because they fit in your hand really well, and they're a little bit different than the ones you would get at the stores, but try to seek these. They're really cheap, like under $1. And then we'll just need a basic little vegetable chef knife, any kind of thing that you have, any kind of house knife that you would have. And today we're going to use a wooden cutting board. We'll use just this one side, but once you use the side, don't flip it over. You know, just wash it off and then reuse just the one side. And then I always put a damp towel underneath the cutting board, which prevents slipping, which prevents cuts. And I also have the cutting board kind of flush to the table so I can scoop off of the table. And it's, you know, like that, so then when you're cutting you can make more exact cuts using your right angles all in your cutting board, and that's a good way to cut things. So this is butternut squash. Usually if I'm using it for a garnish for soup, I'll use the top portion because it doesn't have the seeds in it. The round bell part has all the seeds in it. So right away, we'll take off the top and the bottom as close as possible to the top, and then the bottom, right? And then we'll cut it in half just to make, I'll cut it like where the bell starts. I want this to be the same there, so I'll cut the bell off from it, and then this way it makes it kind of more easier to manage. You could use your knife and go down the sides like that, and to get to this flesh that you want to see, that bright orange, or you can use your peeler if you got them. But when I use the peeler, I don't get as much as the stuff off the way that I like to. So I'll just use my knife for a lot of this squash. You know, and even if it's too tall, you can cut it like that, you know, and then just cut off just the heart, because this stuff is all hard in there. The shell protects it. You see those cuts in there? But there's that layer of white stuff in there, or yellow, you can see. I want to try to get off of there. And that's the reason why we're doing that is because the flavor of that pith is real mild. And we want this orange flesh because it's sweet and it has those really earthy flavors of squashes, a real bright color too. And then that color there will kind of dilute that bright color. So then when you're preparing foods, you want to try to think of the colors and things like that and try not to disrupt a lot of that, because that is appealing to people when they see it and they see something bright or something nice, that they tend to enjoy it more. That's why the butternut squash is such a good squash to use, is because it has those two things. It's almost like two different tastes. You know, you got the bell part with the seeds in it, and then you have the big part with just the flesh in it. So finished product, you got all this. You know, we'll just leave this on the cutting board now, because we'll take our onions when we make this soup base, the stew base. You know, we're gonna saute the onions and get them a little bit translucent, a little bit clear, a little bit tender. Trying to cook off some of that extra water that's in it. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and add my butternut squash to it as carefully as I can. I'm trying not to drop any. And then just coat them all. And then the moisture part's really important, because you're only going to want to use the minimum amount of moisture that you can. You don't want it too much water in there. So we have some water that we're going to pour in there. You know, do it kind of fast. Use cold water and just to cover, like that. And then you're going to want to kind of mix it around so nothing's kind of stuck to the ground. And I'll get that going. And I'll kind of get it to low, you know, as low as I can get it, like that. Maybe like that. High simmer, maybe. We'll call that high simmer there. So we just wait for it to boil. And then once we get it to a boil, you know, we're gonna simmer it for about 10 minutes, and we're gonna check our doneness. So what we're looking for is we want these squashes to be tender enough so you can kind of smash it a little bit. Or a fork kind of goes through it easy, or a pointy knife, you know, can stick it in there, and then it'll come in and out real easy. Because we're going to want it to blend real smooth. But we don't want to boil it too much where we lose that color. We're going to want it just done enough. You know, again, we're going to kind of heat up this pan a little bit. You know, get it on high heat. Get it kind of hot, get it kind of tempered, you know, because everything we're going to do here, it's a process. So then we're going to temper this pan a little bit. So then we'll just go ahead and start putting our stuff in. We'll put corn in there. We'll put our beans in there. You know, we don't have to put all of them in at once. You know, you just kind of want to not overdo your pan, you know. You can have a really big pan for this and do it all at once. But for what we're doing, this is going to be okay. Just like this. And just let it sit there for a second. And add some salt to it. About a teaspoon of salt. Again, we can do this later, and then some sprigs of that on there. You can chop these up too inside, but you know, we'll leave it this way because I really like the way the stems taste. They're really good. So I just want to kind of heat that up. You know, what we're looking for is we're not looking for it to stick to the pan, but we're going to try to want to just heat these up and kind of make it look appealing and appetizing. Already you can kind of see the different colors and the different things. And that's it. You won't be searing this too, because you know there's a lot of moisture in this, and you won't be doing too much sauteing. But once everything's kind of heated up like that, I'm going to add in the rest of the stuff. You know, and kind of do this in batches. You could also do smaller batches than that and really get a really good sear on every single one of those, or even a bigger pan to kind of do all that in. But kind of right now what we want to do is we want to just heat this up. Just like that, you know? And that's just like that. It's just like there. And then you turn this guy down. Low heat. Low heat. Right? Mind your handles. You never want it out this way towards me because somebody walked by, bump into it, you know, over the table maybe. Then we'll just put a lid on it. Then we'll wait for our squash to be tender. And we'll start blending. And this is ready to go. You can eat that now. Okay, so I did my best to take out all the like green leaves. The green leaves are going to add a certain color to it, but I took all the sprigs out. And that's why I left them in sprigs, so I can more easily take out the oregano. So we're kind of just left with this kind of situation. You can see in there the squash is going to be like that. Can you see that good? You know, it's going to be like that color, and then you're going to want to be able to smash it up like that. You don't want it hard. So I'd say that was about, you know, 7 minutes maybe, you know, cooking and simmer, you know, bring it to a boil, simmer it, and it's all going to be that doneness. It doesn't take long at all, like really fast. So then that's what you're going to end up with, like that, is that kind of liquid. So we're going to try to utilize all this, everything in there. If you do it right, if we did it right, then all this will be utilized. You can use the immersion blender too if you want, if you got that. If you don't have a blender, if you don't have a blender or an immersion blender, this is okay too. You know, add your stuff to this, and this is a stew there. So we took the squash and the onions out of the pot, but we're going to use the same pot to reheat if we have to, and reseason it if we have to. But we went ahead and we strained it out, you know, and we have our reserved cooking liquid out on the bottom of the bowl, and we're gonna fill up our blender. These blenders, you don't want to be too you don't want to overpower them, overfill them with things. So I'll just do like half, you know, my best to do half, and then probably this liquid we'll pour in just till we see the cover. Then we do also have reserve water around, you know, so that whenever we do this, and then I'll go in there and kind of do this a little bit, and that kind of, what that'll do is there's like a little pocket of air on the bottom of it. When you pour liquids on the top, it'll be in there. So when it starts, it'll be a little pocket, and then just it'll happen. It'll be an explosion or something. Okay, then I'll pulse it a couple times, get it going. Okay, then I'll do the puree option. Then once it's going in this nice thing, spiral, then you hit it with the high. And you can tell if it's the right thickness. You shut it off if it does that. You're going to want a lot of motion in there. Once you see something sitting idle like that and it's kind of bubbling, then it but you can already see how it looks. You know, it's real bright, real smooth looking. And we'll add in some more moisture. And this can be as thick or thin as you want it. So the yield to this recipe is going to be as thick or thin as you want this to be. Then we'll just put this back in our pot. And that's kind of what we're left with. It's just this like real silky looking like stuff. So now we got the stew base, the butternut squash puree is done, the garnish, the beans and the corn are done, and then we're gonna plate, and we'll just do one ladle full at a time in there. Each one will get a ladle full. You know, top to bottom, left to right. Hopefully, you know, you try not to splash, but if you splash, it's alright. And then we'll do our garnish, and we'll do about a big spoonful. You know, make sure we take out our oregano stems, and that'll be, we'll just pop it right in the middle. Everybody gets a spoonful, top to bottom, left to right. So if we had more bowls, I'd be farther down the line with the soup, and then someone could be coming around like this. And there it is, Symtriadic stew, and it's finished. All we need is some spoons and some mouths. So that's kind of how, you know, we would do things in a T3. So part of some of the purpose of why we had the T3 was to train these individuals who worked with elderly or children, or just kind of like anybody who was interested in a healthier way of cooking. All this stuff has a power to it. Everything I do in my life is in there for you guys, and I know that, you know, that's my intention, is so that you take this culture of mine that, you know, way back, you know, back in the day, you know, that is all out in here, you know, and you know, just thankful I know how to do things like this. You know, my mentors, everybody around, you know, the people that we work together. You know, we don't like work for a certain thing. You know, we're all like self-motivated stuff. You know, I'm just thankful for all that. You know, all of that gratitude. You know, wopila yalo, wopila yalo. Thank you for the opportunity to cook and share a meal like that.
Thanks to you and all of our generous donors for supporting important NPRA services such as Train the Trainer. It is because of you that we are able to fulfill our mission serving immediate needs, supporting long-term solutions, and advance our vision of strong, self-sufficient Native American communities.